Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the annual Kent County Dimer engagement discussion. My name is Omar Khan. I am President and CEO of the Delaware Health Sciences Alliance, and I have the privilege of working with the Dimer board every year to welcome students and families and help discuss the opportunities that are available through the Dimer program for Delawareans. We're just incredibly pleased that you are here today. My colleague Pam Gardner, Program Manager for the Delaware Health Sciences Alliance, is going to help moderate today's program as well. I just wanted to offer some brief thoughts as a family physician and as a Delawarean. I think that Dimer offers an amazing opportunity, essentially Delaware's own medical school, which along with the branch campus at Christiana Care and Nemours and Bay Health is essentially the foundation of Delaware's medical education, designed specifically to have students like yourself receive an outstanding college education and after that apply to the best medical schools in the country. And for that, we have our partnerships with the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine and the Sidney Kimmel Medical College at Thomas Jefferson University, both in Philadelphia. Through today's discussions, I hope you ask lots of questions and learn more about how best to prepare for a career in medicine, and most importantly, perhaps learn about what amazing opportunities the state of Delaware, the Dimer board, and all of the partners have created for you. It really enhances your chances of getting into medical school for those exceptionally prepared students, and our plan, our hope, and our aim is to make sure that all of you are indeed exceptionally prepared. The board chair of Dimer, Sherman Townsend, my good friend and colleague, is going to discuss an outline of the Dimer program. We have several other colleagues here who are practicing physicians and administrators and leaders in the community who are going to discuss what practicing in Delaware means to them and how you might follow in their footsteps, might learn from them. And I hope you take advantage of the mentorship opportunities here. I'm always available to you as well to discuss anything you might want. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Pam Gardner to moderate the rest of the program. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Dr. Khan, and thank you again all for joining us this afternoon. We are quite excited for the afternoon that we have ahead of us. As Dr. Khan mentioned, my name is Pamela Gardner. I'm the Program Manager for Delaware Health Sciences Alliance. I'm on behalf of DHSA and Dr. Khan. I not only want to thank our audience participants today, but I'd like to thank our panelists who will meet momentarily, as well as Dr. Kate Smith, who is our colleague with the Delaware Academy of Medicine and the Delaware Public Health Association for her support in today's event as well in partnership. Let's see. Just a quick intro to DHSA. The Delaware Health Sciences Alliance is an academic consortium. You can see that our current members' logos here: Christiana Care, Thomas Jefferson University, Nemours Children's Hospital, the University of Delaware, Bay Health, the Delaware Academy of Medicine and Delaware Public Health Association, and the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. We have been contracted by Dimer to help with their strategic communication and engagement initiatives, and we're thrilled to be partnered with them and be here with you all today. Our website is dhsa.org, just a snapshot there. I'd also like to call attention to the Delaware Journal of Public Health, which can be found at djph.org. There was an issue in April 2020 that may be of interest to those of you attending today that focused on health sciences education, and we hope that you'll visit the website and take a look at that issue. I do want to just make sure everyone is aware that today's event is being recorded. And as far as what we can expect today, we have our panel of experts who will be meeting momentarily. With our moderated discussion, we'll be talking about the Delaware Institute of Medical Education and Research, which is also known as DIMER, recommendations for undergraduate studies, the process of applying to medical school, as well as the journey from medical school to practicing physician. We will be pausing throughout the event to take questions from the audience, and we ask audience members to please feel free to submit their questions via the Q&A function within Zoom. And now our panel. We'll start from left to right. And Mr. Townsend, if you'd like to give a brief introduction and introduce yourself, and then we'll go on to Dr. Horton and Dr. Vasagar.
Thank you, Pamela. Yes, I'm Sherman Townsend. I'm from Dover. I have been involved with DIMER for more than 30 years. I arrived on that as a board member appointed by the University of Delaware when I was a trustee. So it's become a big part of my life. I'm not a physician. I'm not an academician. I'm a business person. But I was chosen many years ago to chair the board of DIMER. And it's been a great experience for me. But basically, we're here today to really spark your interest and offer our help in assisting you search and get to a medical education. So we'll go through this a little bit later.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Dr. Horton?
Well, good afternoon. As she said, I am Marche Horton. I am also a member of the DIMER board, but in my full-time capacity, I am the Dean for the College of Health and Behavioral Sciences at Delaware State University. And within that college are the departments of nursing, kinesiology, public health, psychology. I think that might be it. Go through the list. And in addition to that, I'm also chairman of the board for the Early College High School at Delaware State University. So we are very excited to have you here today. Please get your questions ready. We have a lot of information to share with you because we really want to see you at the other end of this journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Horton. Dr. Vasagar?
Hi, everyone. I am Brentha Vasagar. I'm a family medicine physician. I deliver babies. I care for them throughout their life, all the way up to adulthood, and then I help them with end-of-life decisions. So I am part of that family through all of their healthcare decisions, and that is what I love about medicine. In my other job, I do work for Bay Health, which is in Kent and Sussex counties, and we are starting the first residency program in Kent and Sussex counties. So if you do have an interest in coming back to Delaware to practice medicine, I'm happy to tell you more about that today and about what those opportunities look like so that you can do parts of your medical education within the state of Delaware.
Thank you so much. We're looking forward to hearing from all of you. And we also will be joined by Dr. Sydney Teal. She was called into a time-sensitive matter, but she'll be joining us shortly, we hope. Dr. Teal is a primary care physician and physician executive with Christiana Care. So we look forward to hearing from her as well. Let's see. Before we get started, just want to go over some key terms that you may hear today. DIMER, again, is the Delaware Institute of Medical Education and Research. You may hear in discussion us refer to SLRP, that is the Student Loan Repayment Program. HPSA is the Health Professional Shortage Areas. And you may also hear discussion today relative to post-bac. And post-bac is following undergraduate, a program that allows students to complete outstanding academic requirements for admission to medical school, usually focused on the sciences. But I'm sure Dr. Vasagar and Dr. Horton will go into that more. So I will now ask Mr. Townsend. He's going to start us off with the discussion on DIMER. Mr. Townsend? Sherman, you're muted.
Thank you. DIMER was initiated in 1969 because Delaware did not have its own medical school. So some people from Wilmington that had attended Thomas Jefferson Medical School suggested to the state of Delaware that we partner with Thomas Jefferson in Philadelphia. And that program, our first class entered in 1970. And ironically enough, one of the students that was in that class is now serving on our DIMER board. And those of you from Kent County may know him, Dr. John Glenn. So we've had the relationship with Jefferson since 1970. And about 10, 12 years ago, we formed a relationship with Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. So we have 2 medical schools. We have 20 seats reserved each year at Jefferson, and we have 10 seats now reserved at PCOM each year for students from Delaware. Many years, and most years, we exceed that number considerably. In fact, this year, we have our largest class ever that started in medical school this year. We have 47 this year from different, all 3 counties that are attending both of those institutions in Philadelphia. First of all, who is eligible for DIMER? Eligible applicants must be legal residents of Delaware. And they must, of course, meet the prescribed requirements by both the medical colleges. And they must have a primary and permanent residence in Delaware. When they submit their applications to either one of those institutions, they will be identified as a Delaware resident. They will receive a secondary application, and then their application at that point effectively goes into a separate pile and gets looked at as only a DIMER student. So on average, both Sidney Kimmel and PCOM receive over 10,000 applications a year at each of those institutions. Each of those institutions have between 250 and 280 slots for the year. If we didn't have the DIMER program, your application would be in that pile of 10,000 other applicants. However, as a result of the DIMER program, in any given year, we have between 18 and 100 students that apply for medical school anywhere in the country. And because of the DIMER program, most of those students from Delaware do apply to one of those institutions through DIMER. So your little pile that it goes in is a fairly small pile. So you're competing basically against 100 other applicants as opposed to 10,000, or in some cases, in really 20,000, but some of those students apply to both institutions. So the whole key to the DIMER program is that it really, really raises the opportunity and the possibility and probability that you would get accepted to go to medical school. So it also, the DIMER program provides you medical education and opportunity to work with some of the country's best healthcare leaders. The DIMER leadership, our board is 17 people. We have people on our board from all 3 counties, Sussex, Kent, and Newcastle, representatives from the University of Delaware. Dr. Marsha Horton, whom you met earlier, is on our board, and representatives from Christiana and all of our other schools, our hospitals that have residency programs. We have many alumni physicians. The DIMER program, since its beginning, has educated over 1,200 Delawareans to be physicians. And of that 1,200, I looked at the stats today before I had this program, and 465 of them are from Kent and Sussex County. So this year, as I said, we have 47 in the first year class between the 2 institutions. So you also have an opportunity to really kind of form a club with your DIMER peers when you enter these institutions. We have a dinner for all of the students at both institutions each year for the first year students, and we follow you through that whole course of the 4 years in medical school. And we have another dinner for you as you're finishing up your program to introduce you to all the possibilities to do your residency. So of course, there are also mentoring opportunities. We have many DIMER graduates, alums that would be more than happy to mentor you sometime at one of our local hospitals if you would care to do that. So through the partnership that we created a few years ago with the Delaware Health Science Alliance, we also have a lot of different opportunities to engage and participate in different events. We have student research work groups and publication opportunities. DHSA recently sponsored a essay contest to have students write about their experience with COVID. And that will be published in a journal that's coming out in the next month or so. Next slide, please. Okay, now, does anyone have any questions about DIMER? I was very brief, I hope, and but pretty much to the point about what DIMER is and what it's about. So we can open now for any questions that anyone may have about the DIMER program.
And I'll just remind the audience members that they can submit their questions via the Q&A function. And Dr. Smith, can you tell us if we have any questions?
Nope, no questions yet.
Okay, great. In case anyone's typing, Mr. Townsend, if you don't mind, I can elaborate a little bit on the student engagement that DHSA recently did with the writing competition in light of COVID and the impact to everyone, but also to medical students and the way that their medical education was being conducted. We invited our medical students through DIMER and the Delaware branch campus. The Delaware branch campus is part of the DIMER program with SKMC and PCOM, where students come back and have their clinical rotations actually at Christiana Care and some pediatric rotations at Nemours. And Dr. Vasagar, I'm sure, will also mention that Bay Health is also a branch campus for PCOM. As well. And so we invited our Delaware branch campus students and DIMER students to submit written essays and or poems based on their personal experience and perspective of COVID and the impact to their education and experiences through their education with COVID. And so we had our call for submissions was well received, and we had a panel of judges that selected a top 5, and as Mr. Townsend mentioned, those 5 were featured in the most recent issue of the Delaware Journal of Public Health. Earlier this year, we also had a research publication opportunity for medical students. You may have also noticed on one of the previous slides, student work groups. We had a group of students that rose their hands, came together, formed a group, and said they were interested in learning more about research within the health system. And so DHSA is facilitating that relationship and partnerships within the health system to help that learning and also those connections to get them involved in research-based activities. I'll pause there and ask Dr. Smith one last time if there are any questions about DIMER and for Mr. Townsend before we move on.
Just a quick housekeeping question. Somebody asks if there's a way for them to see the slides that you've been showing.
After the event, we will post the screening of the recording of the event. We can certainly post the slides as well. They'll be available on the DHSA website, dhsa.org.
All right, that's it for questions.
Okay.
There's also a question in the chat. Are there any programs eligible for high school students?
Well, I can speak to Christiana Care, and then I can ask Dr. Vasagar if she could speak maybe to Bay Health. Pre-COVID, I don't believe our programs are currently undergoing in light of COVID, but outside of COVID times, Christiana Care does have opportunities for students to volunteer in the summertime. There's a summer volunteer program. I believe applications for that are typically submitted in the January-February timeframe. There's also Kate, Dr. Smith, if you'd like to speak also about Mini-Med is an opportunity to learn more about different facets of the medical professions and attend seminars. And there's also the Apollo program. I believe that's focused mainly on Newcastle County right now, but I believe there is goals and aspirations to expand that beyond. But Dr. Smith, would you like to mention Mini-Med, and then Dr. Vasagar can also mention anything that Bay Health may offer?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, in the spring, the Delaware Academy of Medicine holds mini medical school. So it's once a week for 6 weeks, and students can learn about different aspects of the medical field. Excuse my dog. And we also have a student internship program. Right now it's done completely virtually, but when it's not COVID happening, students do have the opportunity to come into the office and see things like that.
And Dr. Smith, where would someone go to find out more information about MiniMed or the internship opportunities?
Both of those programs can be found on our website at delamed.org, DELAMED.org.
Great, thank you so much. And for the Apollo program, you can find out information through the Medical Society of Delaware through their website. I believe it's msd.org, but if you Google Medical Society of Delaware, you should be able to find out more information there. Dr. Vasagar, could you speak to Bay Health?
Sure. So I think we're in the same boat as everyone else with COVID and wanting to decrease the amount of exposure inside the hospital. But if students are interested in shadowing, we do have a person named Andrea in our education department. I'm happy to give you her phone number. She's always happy to give you more information about what those opportunities look like. And she can tell you maybe what a timeline looks like as far as when she might be able to schedule you. We also have something called the Explorers program, and Stephanie, our coordinator, is also on the line who can tell us a little bit more about that. But again, I have a phone number for that. So if anybody's interested in sort of shadowing experiences in Bay Health and Kent or Sussex counties, feel free to chat us in the box, and I'll shoot you those phone numbers.
Great, thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Okay.
Nope, why don't we go ahead and I'll keep an eye on the questions.
Okay, perfect. I'm having a hard time seeing everything with sharing my screen. All right, Dr. Horton, we are going to learn more about undergraduate recommendations from Dr. Horton and specifically what Delaware State University has to offer. Dr. Horton?
Thank you. So today I'm going to focus on two areas: effective high school preparation and selecting the right college. So with effective high school preparation, there are 3 points I want you to keep in mind. Keep your eye on the prize, build a solid foundation, and think rigor. So what does all this mean? Well, keep your eye on the prize. Think with the end goal in sight. If you want to be a doctor, what is it that you need to do now to help you get there? The first thing is you need to develop a plan. Your guidance counselor can help you with that. He or she can help you think about which courses you'll need to build. You will need to build a solid foundation for college and then later for med school. You'll need math and science courses. You probably already knew that, but in selecting the classes, think rigor. You will need upper level courses, AP, IB, or actual college classes that you can take via dual enrollment. But there's a word of caution. If you're thinking right now, I don't particularly like math or science, then pre-med will not be a good fit for you. Now, that's not a bad thing, but that's a real thing, and you need to have those conversations with yourself early. In addition to the math and science courses, you need English, particularly English classes that require writing. As a college student, whether it's at the grad or undergrad level, you will need to know how to write well. Now is the time to develop that skill. This information was targeted towards high school students, but if you're already in college, it's not too late to make adjustments. For example, it's not too late to select courses that will best prepare you for the MCAT. So develop a plan and select your courses carefully. Next slide, please. Get your feet wet. Now is the time to seek those experiences that will help you get a real sense of what being a professional in the field of medicine means. This applies whether you're in high school or in college. Normally, there are plenty of opportunities to volunteer at hospitals and community health agencies, but these are not normal times. This does not mean that the opportunities are not there, but it does mean you will have to look harder for them. So they've already talked about some of the opportunities that are available at Bay Health and at Christiana. Pursue those, check those out. In preparing for this event, I did some searching and found a site that provides virtual pre-med shadowing. Who knew? So to find it, all I had to do was Google virtual shadowing doctors, and it was the first thing that popped up. So if you do something like that, make sure though that an adult is sitting next to you, because you want to make sure that what you're finding is something that's real, at least for the first session. There are summer programs and internships. Other sources are your family doctor's office, someone at your church, or a family friend. Anyone who knows you and is willing to help you find opportunities for real life experiences in medicine, because they really do make a sense. They really give you a sense of actually what it's like to be that working professional. Next slide, please. Pick the right college. There are lots of things to consider when selecting a college. I'm in the midst of that process with my daughter right now. You have to decide whether you want something large or small, rural or urban, private or public. Are you interested in a school that's very diverse, or one that's homogeneous, within driving distance from home or as far away from home as you can get? So those are just a few of the considerations to keep in mind. But if you're interested in pre-med, there's some other things to think about. What majors do they have at the college or university? What is the strength of their pre-med program? Is their program well known? Is it a hidden gem, or is it just unknown? Consider bachelor's, BS/MD programs for high school applicants, or schools with partnership programs, programs that combine undergraduate school with medical school. Some of the courses you take will apply towards both the bachelor's and the MD degree, resulting in earning both a bachelor's degree and a medical degree. Or the undergraduate school may have a partnership with a medical school, such that if you successfully complete the undergraduate program, you'll have a high likelihood of being accepted into the partner medical school. Think about what resources and support that they have available at the institution. Are there pre-health communities? Is there specific advising? Is there MCAT prep offered? Those are all the things you need to consider when selecting the schools you want to apply to. Next slide, please. So of course, I couldn't let the moment go by without telling you about what Del State has to offer. So one of the things that we provide is strategic advisement. Our advising model has recently been restructured so that course advisement is provided by a member of the Student Success Unit. Advising teams are assigned to colleges, and once you are assigned to an advisor, he or she remains your advisor throughout your 4-year matriculation. In addition, mentoring is provided by faculty from your assigned department. Now, most students who are interested in pre-med major in biological sciences with a concentration in health professions. However, some students have opted to major in other areas, like kinesiology, while taking additional science courses like cell biology and organic chemistry to prepare themselves for the MCAT. In addition, a member of the Career Services Division, Tamika Lee, serves as the chair of our Health Professions Committee and is an advisor for the MAPS chapter, and I'll tell you more about MAPS in a minute. Ms. Lee provides career coaching advice and reviews resumes, cover letters, and personal statements needed for applications to graduate school, medical school, or dental school. Strong curriculum. We have a wonderful curriculum, and one of the concentrations available in the Department of Biological Sciences is pre-health professions, which prepares students for advanced study in the medical field. This concentration includes the internships and the opportunities for students to serve as medical scribes. MCAT, we have partnered with Kaplan to offer an MCAT prep course. And currently, that course is I forgot how many weeks it is. The chair of the department is on the call, so she can respond to that question. But that course is currently offered to our students free of charge, which is a tremendous saving. All you have to do is Google it to see how much they charge for that course. There are a range of course offerings and research opportunities in areas such as neuroscience, biotechnology, and bioinformatics, as well as cancer biology. The Health Professions Committee. So the Health Professions Committee is an interdisciplinary group of faculty who assists in guiding students through the rigorous application process to health professional schools. Students submit a portfolio that documents their academic profile and participate in interviews. Successful candidates are given a letter that they submit with their applications to med school. And that's one thing that med schools often are looking for. They're looking for the MCAT scores, and they're looking for some type of endorsement letter. If you're not successful with the process, you're provided feedback and an opportunity to resubmit. MAPS. Now, MAPS is the Minority Association of Pre-Medical / Pre-Health Students. And at Delaware State University, it's the largest student-run pre-medical, pre-health organization on campus. MAPS was founded to increase the pipeline of minorities into all health professions, inclusive of medicine, nursing, public health, healthcare administration, and entrepreneurship. With the ever-increasing difficulty of getting into medical schools, MAPS serves as a strong bridge for students to use in order to understand the various aspects of medical school admissions and to prepare them to be strong candidates for admissions. They offer small group MCAT prep sessions, they assist in personal statement writing, they connect students with volunteering, shadowing, and scientific research opportunities. They also participate in annual charity events. Through the outstanding work done at Delaware State University, the Delaware State University chapter was awarded the 2020 Region 8 Chapter of the Year Award. Jared Jeffrey, the former MAPS president, was also awarded the 2020 National MAPS Member of the Year. Our current president, Junaid Chima, is going to be present to answer any questions. He had class, I'm hoping he's already been able to join us thus far. Next slide, please. Are there any questions?
Just a reminder, you can submit your questions in the Q&A or the chat. I think we would prefer the Q&A function just because it's easier to make sure we can keep everything easier to see them there. But I'll defer to Dr. Smith if there's any questions.
Well, so I have both of them open on my very small screen, so apologies if I missed someone. I don't see any questions yet, and I don't see our MAPS president yet, but there is somebody, hang on, no, there's a question. Where can I find the MCAT prep course you talked about?
So the MCAT, this is at Del State, and if you're already a student at Del State, this is for students who are registered as at Del State. So if you're interested in taking that course, contact Dr. Sabrina McGarry. It's listed as an MCAT prep course on the course offerings, but in case you can't find it, reach out to her and she will help you with that. Her email is provided in the chat because she is online.
And I have another question. How am I able to get in touch with Dr. Horton?
Oh, well, that's easy. My email address is mhorton@desu.edu.
And a third question. I'm a psychology major trying to take science courses and physics. Would that be a problem when applying for medical school?
So, and some of the other folks who are on the panel can chime in too, but because I'm not a physician and I'm only gathering information, but they're looking for students who are well-rounded. The science and the math are the core foundations that they're going to be looking for. If you have these other things, psychology, music, whatever, that's great in terms of presenting a well-rounded student applicant. But you have to have your science and math. So if you're at a school and they may not have a pre-med major per se, you need to make sure that you're adding those additional courses on to whatever your major is. And the key factor really is going to be, what is it going to do? What is it going to prepare you? What is best going to prepare you for MCAT? Because regardless of what the medical school is, they're all looking for high MCAT scores. Dr. Vasani, did you want to add something?
No, I think that was a great answer. I don't think there's a mistake in choosing psychology, for example, as your major. I think it's a great and very relevant to medicine major. But I would agree that the base really needs to be the sciences. So as long as you're still doing that, as long as you're putting a lot of effort into getting the grades in the sciences so that you can get a great score on your MCAT, you'll be set.
I've got another question in the Q&A. Who should I reach out to regarding MAPS?
So the president of the MAPS chapter is Junaid Chima, but if you email me, I can connect you with him. And again, my email is, and I will put it in the chat box so you have it, but it's mhorton@desu.edu.
Fantastic. Okay, I have no more questions at this time. I don't know if our MAPS president is here. There is one person calling in that just has a phone number. but I don't see his name on the side. So why don't we keep going, and I'll keep an eye out on and see if anyone comes in.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Smith. I would, just from previous panels that we've had, if I could ask a few questions about the MCAT that have come in. And Dr. Vestager, if I'm jumping ahead and you're going to be addressing any of that in your presentation, just let me know. But this is open to any of our panelists, as I know you each have view this from different perspectives. For instance, Mr. Townsend, I know that you you sit on the application review committee for the Dimer Partner Schools, so you see the MCAT scores. Dr. Vestager, obviously, your own experience as well as in the residency and education programs that you're involved with at Bay Health, and then Dr. Horton, the advice that you all are giving students. Are there targeted MCAT scores? How does MCAT scoring work? Is there a score that's a target that someone should be aiming for and striving for? And I guess relative to that, is there recommendations for what the preparation going into taking an MCAT, the MCAT is? I know that there's the MCAT prep courses, but then additional, studying time on your own. Are there any recommendations that you all can provide, whether just from your experience in academia and or personal experience?
I'll be happy to take the lead on that if this is Sherman Townsend. As Pamela said, I have a lot of exposure to the committee that reviews the applications that come in primarily to Thomas Jefferson, or to Sidney Kimmel, it's now called. And I think I can really give it to you from a down-earth perspective, because, as I said earlier in the presentation, I'm not an academician. But yes, both institutions do have a kind of a cutoff, and you want to be up. You want to be up in at least the 505, 510 area on the MCAT score. The MCATs did change a few years back. When in the last 5 years they've changed up the program a little bit. But I think the absolute best advice I can give you, which I think is very important, and I don't think anyone else would ever tell you this, but I can tell you from pretty tight experience that do not take the MCATs until you know you're prepared. Some students have said to me, well, I went and took the MCATs because I wanted to see what they were like, and then I would figure out what I needed to study. Common sense, sounds good. Please do not do it. Because what will happen is those scores will be recorded. And if you do go and take a course and do much, much better later, unfortunately, they'll tend to average those scores. So I don't recommend taking the MCATs for practice, but certainly taking an MCAT course, I would say, is almost mandatory. And really work hard at it, but you must have, as Dr. Horton said, a good base in the basic sciences, certainly in chemistry and biology, in order to do well in the MCATs. But there are courses out here, and I learned something today myself. I did not realize that Delaware State University was offering those prep courses for free to their students. So I applaud Delaware State for doing that. I think it's a great service to offer the students. So thank you, Dr. Horton.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Dr. Vestager, Dr. Horton, do you have anything to add? No? Okay. Very good. One other question that has come up in previous sessions is relative to mentorship. And Dr. Horton, you discussed very much a partnership between the advisors at DSU and the students. And so I just wanted to ask and open that up to yourself as well as Dr. Vestager, the importance of obtaining and attaining a mentor early on, and maybe any advice for doing so for students who haven't done so already.
So finding a mentor is very important, because they can help you navigate the process. in addition to being another set of eyes, another set of ears for any types of documents you want to submit. So here at Del State, we have, several rounds of that, several levels of that. So the person that I mentioned, who is chair of the Health Professions Committee, Tamika Lee, she does mentoring of students. She's also the advisor for the MAPS chapter, so she's a point of contact for them. Dr. Sabrina McGarry, who's online, the chair of the biology department, does that as well. But it's also important to reach out into the community, and that gets back into the comment I made before in terms of your community connections, whether it's a physician you know through your church, if it's your family doctor, if it's, whoever you know, or if you know somebody who knows somebody, let them know that you are seeking mentors in health professions because this is your goal and you want to really see what that's like. You want to experience, you want this shadowing, and you'd be surprised. There are lots of physicians out there who want to help you be successful. They remember what it was like going through that process, and they want to help you get there. And so you have to ask. A doctor is not going to come up to you and say, "Well, hello there, Sally Sue. You look like the type of person who might want to be a business." No, you're going to have to put yourself out there. And if you're not comfortable with that, that's where, some of those other mentors and then counselors and teachers can help you get the questions together, make the contact and do it. On a personal note, my daughter was interested in doing it. And so, we have family friends who are physicians, but, she tried them first, but, they were in areas that she wasn't particularly interested in. So she ended up going to the family doctor and had a wonderful shadowing experience. And she said, now that's what exactly I want to do. I want to go into family medicine, but I want to work in an office. I don't want to work, I might, so it opened up all of these possibilities for her that she really hadn't considered. So it really personalizes it for you. So I strongly encourage you to pursue that.
Great, thank you so much. Oh, Dr. Vasagar?
I mean, I think that was a great answer, so I don't really need to add too much. The only other things I'll say is when I was your age in high school and undergrad, I remember it sort of feeling like, well, I have an advisor, I've been assigned somebody, so they're my mentor, right? And yes, certainly that person can help fill some of that, but it doesn't mean that you can't have other people that can also give you that advice. And I think part of that is seeking out not just a doctor, but as has been mentioned, a doctor that does what you want to do. For me, I always thought I wanted to be a surgeon. So it is important to try things out and make sure that it's a good fit for your personality and what you want to get out of being a doctor. The other thing I'll say is that the road through medicine is very unique to medicine. And if you don't know all of the steps ahead of time, it just makes it that much harder to walk the road. So there's really no shame in going to someone who's done it and saying, I just don't even know where to start. Can you help guide me? We've been there, we've struggled through it. And I think we all find satisfaction in helping someone else get through it without making the same mistakes that we did.
Can I throw my 2 cents in there?
Please.
I would like to say that you don't only need to have one mentor. You can have a different mentor for different steps of the process. So maybe, Dr. Horton is your mentor for getting into an undergrad college, and then Dr. Vasagar is your mentor for moving along in the process, and your family doctor is your mentor for this, and Mr. Townsend is your mentor for that. You don't have to have one mentor that's going to get you from point A to point Z, and you can have different mentors, and they don't need to know that they're your mentor either. Like, you can look at somebody and say, hey, I want to do what they did. I want to do it the way that they did. Somebody told me that I was their mentor, and I went, you never said a word to me, but okay. So just find your mentors for all of the steps, not just one big mentor. You can have lots of little ones.
I think that's a great point. Thank you, Dr. Smith. Especially, and there's, formal mentors where you formally ask and engage someone specifically as, will you mentor me? But then also there are those that we learn from through our interactions and continue to seek those interactions because of the knowledge that we take away from those, even in informal situations. So very important point. Thank you so much. I am going to move our slide. Dr. Vasagar is going to take us on a journey from medical student to practicing physician. So Dr. Vasagar, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thanks. So this is where things get fun, right? You spent all of this time through undergrad focusing on how do I get into medical school? You have nailed the MCAT. The scores are very different from when I took them on paper. And the high score was a 45, so things have changed quite a bit. And you're there, you're in medical school. Hooray, you finally get to be a doctor. Only the first 2 years of medical school are sitting in a classroom, getting so much information thrown at you, you just don't even know what to do with yourself. So prepare yourself for that. The first 2 years of medical school are often described as drinking out of a fire hose. So developing those study skills early, learning how to learn during undergraduate time will really serve you well when you get to the medical student level. So once you get to be a medical student and see patients in your 3rd and 4th year, it is so much more rewarding. You see what all of the hard work was for, you get to see the faces of the people that you're treating, and you get to figure out what kind of doctor you want to be in the long term. So at Bay Health, as has been mentioned before, we are one of the core clinical campuses for PCOM, which means that 3rd year medical students can spend the entirety of their 3rd year here with us in Kent and Sussex counties. We also have a number of students from both PCOM, now Jefferson, Stephanie can't speak, but she could fill in all the other places that we have medical students from. But essentially, if you choose to go to any school in this country and you wanted to come back and do some rotations with us, we would be happy to have you back in Delaware. So the opportunities are there. You certainly do have to go out of state for those first 2 years, but it is completely feasible to return here for your second 2 years if that's what you desire. After medical school, you are a doctor, but you still have to train under other doctors to specialize. And that training, called residency, can last anywhere from 3 to 7 to 12 years, depending on what you choose to specialize in and how specific you get down that pathway. So I do family medicine, obviously, and that is a 3-year residency program. We are starting a residency program in family medicine at Bay Health. Bay Health is also starting residency programs in internal medicine, with plans to start emergency medicine, surgery, and transitional year in the next few years. We are the first residency program in Kent and Sussex counties, but there are a number of residency programs that have been running for 50 plus years, I want to say, up in the Wilmington area. And I'm sure the folks from Christiana can fill in some of that information as well. So during that time, you would stay with us. In family medicine, you get to do a little bit of everything. So our residents do OB, they do pediatrics, they do urgent care, they do geriatrics, they do a little bit of everything. And we love it. And that's why we became doctors. But certainly that path won't be for everyone. So if you want to be a surgeon, those opportunities will soon exist within Delaware as well. I will say from the state level, obviously there is a huge need for physicians within the state of Delaware. Kent and Sussex counties are both health professional shortage areas, which mean that there are less than 1 physician for every 2,000 people. So when you think about that and you think about how horribly difficult it is to find a doctor when you need one, you realize why it's so important for everyone that we have more of our Delaware natives wanting to come back and serve the communities that they grew up in. So hopefully we can be part of your journey and help facilitate you getting there. Are there any questions about this long journey from medical school to being a full-grown doctor?
Before I go to the Q&A, I did want to let you know, I can't speak either, that I did elevate Stephanie, so she might be able to answer questions aloud rather than just in the chat box if she needs.
Thank you.
Dr. Vasagar, could you talk a little bit about if I want to come to Bay Health as a resident once I've completed medical school? Can I just say, hey, Bay Health, I want to come? Or can you talk a little bit about the residency match program and how that works?
Yes, so the residency match is the most stressful experience of trying to become a doctor. So I try not to scare people with this, Pam.
Sorry.
So much like the stress of applying for medical school and interviewing at medical schools and figuring out where your right fit is, the same thing happens when you decide where you want to go for residency and what kind of residency you want to do. So you can apply to any number of programs across the country. You interview with them and they're obviously interviewing you. At the end of interview season, you make a list of all of the programs that you would be happy going to. And each of the programs makes a list of all of the applicants that they would be happy having. And a big computer system somewhere in the sky matches everyone together. And on match day in the middle of March, everybody finds out on one day where they will be doing their 3, 5, 7 years of residency. And it is a commitment without knowing where you're going to be. So it's a little bit of fun. It's a little bit of stress, but if you've done all the right things on this path, if you've gotten the great mentors, if you've gotten the good foundation to nail the MCAT, you'll be in a good place on match day.
Thank you for sharing that. Dr. Smith, are there any questions?
None that I can see.
So, Dr. Vasagar, if I could throw a personal question at you, knowing all that you know now in the position that you have and being a residency program director and family medicine physician, if you could go back and talk to yourself as a med student and or a pre-med student, is there any advice that you would give yourself?
Hang in there. No,
you're gonna make it.
Faces because they know. I mean, I think during residency, every single person I went to residency with at some point had tears because you want so badly to do this. You've devoted so much of your life to this pathway that when it gets hard, it's hard to separate who you are as a person versus who you are as your profession, because being a doctor is just such a core of who you are as a person. So when times get tough, it gets hard to pull yourself out of that. It's so important to have a great support system, both with mentors and with family. This is a journey that you don't go on alone. My family has had to sacrifice quite a bit so that they could go on this journey with me. So certainly having those support systems and coping mechanisms in place ahead of time make those hard points worth it. And certainly when you finally get out and you are able to see patients and you're able to make an impact on these lives, it is 100% worth it. I can't imagine doing anything else. So I don't want to sell it wrong, but it certainly has its hard points, but it is the most rewarding career. I feel lucky to do what I do every single day. And I really feel like I have the most important job in the world.
Oh, that's wonderful. And as they say, anything worth having isn't easy, right? So the hard work pays off for sure. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thanks.
We are going, are there any more, or Kate, are there any questions before we move on?
No, Mr. Townsend answered the only one that was in the Q&A, so we're good.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Dr. Teal has joined us, and I will invite her to join us again. And Dr. Teal, if you could start with just introducing yourself and saying a few words, and then I know you have some personal experience and wonderful words of wisdom and motivation to share with us. So thank you for being with us.
Sure, thank you. Can you hear me? Awesome. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. You know, boy, have we not learned how to pivot from being practicing physicians where we're physically touching people to virtual touches and becoming IT experts as well. So I just wanted to make sure I actually did it right. I just got a brand new computer also, so I wanted to make sure I actually hooked everything up the way it was supposed to be hooked up. So thanks very much, Pam. And, you know, Dr. Vasagar, she got me so excited. The irony is that I've been practicing for quite a long time, and And I really appreciate the energy and the enthusiasm that you are sharing about being not just a physician, but a family physician. And it's a long time coming. It warms my heart as a practicing physician for over 20 years now to hear your enthusiasm and sharing your enthusiasm with everybody who's on this call. So thank you very much for that part. So hello, everyone. As Pam said, my name is Sydney Teal. I am from Christiana Care, and I am a physician executive, and I'll go into that in a little bit. Thought it'd be important for me to sort of talk about my journey becoming a physician, and sort of then come full circle to talk about my role at Christiana Care as one of our physician executives and leaders. So I started a long time ago. I was actually in middle school. And while I was in middle school, I was doing a book report, and I was doing a book report for Black History Month. And I came across a book entitled Black Inventors and Scientists. And as I was reviewing the book, I came across two physicians, Dr. Charles Drew, who was the inventor of blood plasma, utilized, of course, in American Red Cross and saved lives. And obviously, we're using it now to help support all of our patients who have been exposed to COVID. And then Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, who was the first physician to perform open heart surgery. And I was really keenly interested in their stories and their tremendous work that they've done to really help change the lives of so many of us as human beings. What struck me more than anything about their stories, and what really struck me about Dr. Charles Drew's story, is that he was traveling through the South a very long time ago, and was involved in a car accident in South Carolina. And the closest hospital at that time was segregated part of the country. And the closest hospital was a whites only hospital. And unfortunately, because of the color of his skin, they would not treat him and said that you'll need to take him to at the time they called it the colored hospital, but the hospital for non-whites to be treated at. And he died en route to that hospital. And you can imagine, as an 11-year-old reading this story, I was stunned to think that in that day and time, that people would die. We wouldn't treat each other with humility and humanity. And someone who gave their life and their career committed to saving the lives of others would die at the hands of laws at that time. And so at the age of 11, I said, I want to become a physician. I want to be someone who treats everyone, regardless of race, religion, color, creed, gender, sexuality. And so that really is where my journey began, in that library, in doing that book report. And since that time, really I've been afforded tremendous opportunities to be exposed to medicine, or to be exposed to mentors. And when I got on the call, a number of you were talking about mentorship, and I can't impress upon you enough how important it is to have those formal and informal mentors who help to guide you as you're coming to sort of those crossroads in your lives, and you're thinking, do I go left or do I go right? Maybe I just actually stay straight on my path. So I was in high school. I grew up in Virginia. I probably should have told you that. I grew up in Virginia, and I began with the opportunities to volunteer in our local hospitals, to spend time with physicians, to spend time with scientists, and really, go through the different experiences and ask questions and understand what it was like to already be a practicing physician, but B, what did that road look like? And there were so many journeys that people shared with me, and so many stops and starts, and those who had been successful in their path and in their journeys. But it was really a neat experience. And so high school and those experiences really got my juices going. And then I volunteered. Volunteering was really, really helpful. I wasn't a candy striper, so I wasn't wearing that candy stripe outfit, but I did have the opportunity to deliver trays to patients rooms and to also offer any guidance within the hospital. And again, it gave me the opportunity to talk to people, to talk to patients, to talk to other healthcare workers and get a good sense and feel of what it is, what's the passion behind the careers that they had chosen. I went to college in Virginia. I went to the University of Virginia and was really very, very fortunate to have a program I think in some ways similar to Dimer in the sense that because I had expressed an interest in healthcare, I joined a program called the Healthcare Careers Opportunity Program. And so I spent my summers volunteering in hospitals, as I shared before, much like my high school experience, but I got a little bit more hands-on. I was in the operating room. I was in the room with the physicians as they were seeing patients. I didn't know anything, but at least it was good to be able to listen and to be part of that experience and get that exposure. So the Health Careers Opportunity Program really allowed many of us who had expressed an interest early to really continue to further that interest. There was also part of the program that was science-based. And so it really gave us the opportunity also in a more didactic environment where we were learning the fundamentals about biology and also chemistry. So to really beef up our skills so that we would be able to perform well on tests like the MCAT, as Dr. Vasgar was mentioning. I was very fortunate that everything worked out well, and I ended up getting into medical school. I took all of those prep courses, that you could, anything I could get my hands on. I took a prep course to study for the MCAT, and did well enough to get into the Medical College of Virginia, and I ended up going to Richmond to further my career in medical school. I started to tell you about everybody's journey is a little bit different, and sometimes you get to that crossroad of what's the path that I take? Do I take the path that's less chosen, or do I take the path that everyone else seems to have paved the way for? And I think one of the things that's important for me to share with you all in my journey is one of those times when it's not always that you're going to go directly from high school to college to medical school to residency and then right into practice. In my first year of medical school, tragically, my father died. He passed away. He was on a transplant list and for a heart, and he died. And it was very devastating for me. And what was most devastating is that I couldn't focus. I couldn't function in medical school. And I can recall very clearly calling my advisor in medical school and telling my advisor that I had to step away. I had to drop out. And so I left medical school feeling in some ways very defeated because it had been my life's passion. But I also knew that I mentally couldn't be in that space, be away from my family, knowing how they were suffering. And we were all so devastated by my father's death. And so I stepped away from school for a year, and I had a couple of jobs. Interestingly, I said to myself, I really need to decide if I really want to be a physician. So let me do something really, really different. Let me get a job at an amusement park. And so I got a job in the guest services department at Paramount's King's Dominion. And it truly was the most therapeutic experience for me ever. I'm not saying that you all should necessarily do that, but I will tell you it was immensely therapeutic for me. And what made it so therapeutic were my coworkers. They were funny. Some people were, lifetimers at King's Dominion, and most were college students. Some were in grad school, but they all rallied around me. They supported me. They guided me. They counseled me. And they said, Sydney, this is not the space for you. You are meant to be the physician that you've always thought you should be. And more than anything, the physician your dad has always wanted you to be as well. And it was with their support and their love and my family support and love, I went back to school the next year and I finished my residency. I finished my medical school training. During that time, though, I also, we were saying, you try to figure out what kind of physician you want to be, and the world is your oyster. And as I returned to school, one of the things I also was able to appreciate was what kind of person I am. And as Dr. Vasgar said, medicine is not just a career, it is who you are. I mean, it is how we often define ourselves. And there are certain personalities that lend themselves to certain specialties, and you will learn that as time comes. And I think we've learned that, all of us who are clinicians on this call, you've learned that there are certain personalities that lend themselves to be better at managing difficult conversations, like end-of-life conversations, or taking people to the OR, because technically you've got great hands and you're very skilled to be able to do a heart transplant, for example. I think I learned, for me, that family medicine, primary care, is really the place that I wanted to focus and to really learn that skill and that discipline. And so I said to myself, this is going to be the place where I will really excel the best. I love being not just as people would say, a jack of all trades. I think we are masters of all, and you have to be when you're in primary care. I also identified for myself that that medically underserved communities were also a place where I felt as though I could do the best work, and I would do my best work. And so with that understanding, I pursued residencies that would prepare me for that kind of life's work. I also pursued a way in which I could get there sort of faster, if you will, and also have the support, the financial support, because I think that's really important, especially in this day and time, because medical school is so expensive. And so I was able to, at that time, become a National Health Service Corps scholar. This was a scholarship that was given by the government, that for every year that you took the scholarship, you also gave back a year in a medically underserved community. And I was one of 200 people across the entire nation who received that scholarship. So I was very, very, very fortunate. So with that scholarship and finishing medical school, I then said, okay, I'm going to do primary care. And I thought I was also going to deliver babies. You feel like you can boil an ocean when you're in family medicine. You feel like you can do it all, right? And so I had planned to, much like we were talking about the match, I had planned to go to Ohio to do a combined residency in family medicine and obstetrics. However, before I would get there, I did a I did a rotation in New Orleans, because I thought it was really cool to be in New Orleans and to do a rotation there to understand what it would be like to practice in the South. And I know we talked about how stressful the match is. You'll appreciate this, Dr. Vasgar. I did a rotation the month before the match. And while I was down there, they told me about this very unique opportunity to do a combined residency in internal medicine and in family medicine. So I could be this super primary care doc. There were only 3 residencies in the nation that existed, and this was one of them. And they wowed me so much that I changed my match list last minute to put this Ochsner Foundation in New Orleans as my top match instead of Ohio. And I was fortunate enough to get my top match. So I spent 4 years in New Orleans and learned both the inner workings of internal medicine and the vast, beautiful diversity that comes with family medicine. And I am board certified in both. And to complete my National Health Service Corps requirement, I ended up in Cecil County, Maryland, which is a rural part of Maryland that is very similar in nature to Kent, Sussex. So I definitely understand and appreciate the experience. So here I am, 2 board certifications, ready to take on the world. I have my dog and my fiance, and I ended up in solo practice in rural Cecil County. I practiced in solo practice for 11 years. And I have enjoyed it immensely. I then decided to start going into leadership, and I sort of worked my way up through the ranks of the vice president of the medical staff, the president of the medical staff, and then became the director of medical quality, and then became the chief medical officer at Union of Cecil County, and stayed in that position for 7 years. And I learned so much about the community, the county, medicine, all of those things, all in one. It feels like, it's hard to believe, but it's been 20 years. And it feels like it was just yesterday, actually, that I started there. And then last year, I had the good fortune of joining Christiana Care. And I say the good fortune because I had a tremendous journey at Union of Cecil. And but I felt like there was more that I could contribute, and I wanted to be able to contribute. And through the opportunity of becoming the primary care service line leader at that time, I came to Christiana Care in that capacity. And at Christiana Care, you'd say to yourself, well, gosh, you were at Union for so long. Why would you change? There were a couple of things that really drove me to come to Christiana Care. One was really first and foremost was the mission and the vision of the health system. I didn't realize it at the time that it's the largest health system in Delaware, and also actually the largest employer in Delaware. But Dr. Nevin, who I'd had the opportunity to work with, because we were both chief medical officers at the same time until she became CEO, I really believed in her mission and her vision to take care of our communities and our neighboring communities, to understand that there are social determinants that we must address as healthcare systems, and we have to take them into account when we think about how we're going to take care of patients in a very holistic way. And that we want to not just be a health system, but truly a system that impacts health. And these were words and a vision and a mission that I could really stand behind. And so that's really why I made that leap after many, many years in Cecil County to come to Christiana Care to practice. And so it's amazing as I've been here and I think about my journey, and I think about your journey as it's starting. There I have a couple of reflections. I think that Delaware is a pretty neat place. I think that you have tremendous opportunity to contribute to your community if it is something that you desire. There are so many people on this call, and there are so many people who are so immensely invested in your well-being and really and want to support you through your journey. And not everyone, it's interesting, not everyone wants to be a doctor. What we do encourage, though, is that if you have a passion, that you seek mentorship, you seek mentors, those formal and informal people who are there, who can help you, can provide some guidance to you and for you. And to really, when you think you've lost your way, as I've said earlier, and know that there are people there who want to be able to support you to get you back on track, especially if you want to go into healthcare and especially if you want to be a physician in our various communities. There's so much to offer, and I'm just appreciative of the opportunity to share my journey with all of you on this call today. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Teal, for sharing your personal experience and your journey and such a personal story with us. I'd like to open up the questions for Dr. Teal. Dr. Smith, are there any questions from the audience?
Not yet, but we can wait for them to type.
I'd like to touch on something that Dr. Teal said, and I'll invite all of our...
But before you keep going, Pam, the MAPS president looks like he's on the call. Would you like me to elevate him and he can say a few words?
Sure, that would be fantastic. While we're doing that, I would like to just touch on something that Dr. Teal mentioned, and of course open this up to all of the panelists for comment. Dr. Teal, you mentioned taking a break for very personal reasons, and we've had panelists before who have also gone a completely different route and then decided that no, medicine really was their calling, and decided to change direction after starting an entirely different career. And I just wanted to see if anyone had any advice, you know, for someone who may be contemplating and decides to go in a different direction. Is it ever too late? Can they, while it may not be, it may be harder to come back to do the post-bac. I'm just curious if anyone has any comments or thoughts on, you know, going a different direction and completely pivoting back to medicine later.
I can share, at least I will share this much from when I think about my medical school class. The average age in our medical school class, I think, was 28 in my medical school class. So obviously this is not coming right out of school. And I was in a class of engineers, people who had been in marketing, some former nurses, some former respiratory therapists. So a huge variety of people who had decided that, you know, it's interesting through our journey, sometimes we get discouraged. And I'll tell you, when I say this particular class, everybody will appreciate organic chemistry, right? Everybody thinks that is like the make or break for you in college. But if you're really passionate about it, you're going to stick to your guns, and you're going to stick to your commitment to move forward. But some folks don't realize that they want to be a physician or be in healthcare till years later, and there's something that drives them there. I can recall one of my fellow residents. She was in her 50s in her residency. She did this combined residency, and she had been a CPA, had raised 3 children on her own. Medicine had always been her passion, but because she had decided to be a homemaker and take care of her 3 children, she put medicine on the back burner. Once they all got into college and were on their way, she then went back to school, did all of her prerequisites, went to medical school, and then not only decided to do, you know, to go into primary care, but she decided to go on and do an OB fellowship, and then moved on to Oregon to deliver babies and practice primary care. It was a great story.
So there is a question in the chat. What other suggestions do you have for managing the costs of undergrad and graduate school? They dream of medical school, but always scared that the cost will break them.
So, Mr. Townsend, while others may chime in from their own personal experience, I was going to ask you to speak in a few minutes, but maybe this is a good transition about the student loan repayment program, particularly the one in Delaware. And I know that you and some other colleagues are working to hopefully maybe enhance that program. But would you mind saying a few words about that? And I'll put the website up on the slide.
Okay, sure. First of all, don't let it scare anybody away, but it's my understanding that the average medical student today has about a $300,000 debt upon graduation. And what we do have in Delaware currently is a student loan repayment program that is geared to underserved areas. It is a federally funded program that requires a state match. And you can apply to that program if you're wanting to come to Delaware and are willing to serve in an underserved area. And I believe you can get up to about $20,000 a year from that program toward your student loan over the next 4 or 5 year period. Now, what we are currently working on, and I think we would have had success in getting this had we not run into the pandemic that we're currently still struggling with financially in the state, but we are still hopeful that we will eventually get in Delaware our own student loan program that doesn't have to meet all the requirements of the federal program. And our goal for that is to certainly focus on primary care. We're looking at internal medicine and family medicine, and also mental health. That has become, it was a big problem prior to COVID. And what I'm hearing is that that's even a bigger problem now, because all of us, including myself, I think sometimes need a little help in that arena. But we are working very closely with our legislative people, and we're hopeful that we can get money to fund that. And again, what we're looking at is perhaps providing up to $50,000 a year to you students over a 4-year period to towards your student loan debt. So the program that we're proposing, we are also, as part of that program, we've had some volunteer partners that have offered. A couple of the insurance companies have offered to partner us and match those programs. And we're certainly hoping that all of the hospitals in the state will join us in creating a match for that program. So we're working on it. So those of you that are out there currently looking to go to medical school, I would strongly encourage you to not allow the monetary side of this thing discourage you in any way, because I really do see help down the road in addressing student loan debt.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Dr. Teal or Dr. Vasagar, do you have any advice from your own personal perspective and experience?
You know, I think I love the fact that the Delaware State loan repayment program is in existence. I think that when we think about advocacy for healthcare in general, and specifically physicians, if we really wanted to talk about where the investment should lie on the budget lines of all of our respective states. I mean, specifically, we're talking about Delaware right now, but just from a national level, I think there's a real opportunity. And you were just highlighting the number of clinicians who have taken early retirement as a result of COVID. They've been in private practice, and it's just become nearly impossible to maintain their practices. So we are, there are practices that are closing as a result. And we know that even before COVID, there were issues with the fact that we have a physician shortage, a national physician shortage. So I think there's a real opportunity for advocacy to continue to fund these repayment programs, to, obviously increase the amounts of repayment. Think about some of the things that places like New York is doing, where I believe it is New York Med School, NYU, that is, if you go into family medicine, I believe the tuition is free. So there are certain places that are understanding the importance and the significance of primary care and the investment in the human component of primary care, the workforce. And if we could have more of our state schools and have more of our governments and our municipalities thinking in this direction, I think there's a real opportunity for us. So, but the bottom line is that I think money's out there. I think funding's out there. And I think it's going to be important for everyone to just kind of keep their eyes and their ears open, and for entities like the Delaware Health Sciences Alliances to make sure that they are providing some visibility to the Delawareans so that they know what's available to them. I think it's also incumbent upon us, our respective health systems, to do the same.
Thank you. Dr. Smith, we are approaching the end of our time together, but I wanted to just ask if there's any questions in the chat or Q&A.
No questions, but I wonder, since I elevated him, maybe our MAPS panelists could speak a little bit about the MAPS program at
Yes,
our
please.
state.
Please go right ahead. If you're speaking, you are still on mute and we can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Chimna.
Hello, can you hear me?
Now we've
Yes.
gotcha.
Oh, okay, perfect, perfect. Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Janae Chima, and I'm the MAPS president at Delaware State University. A little bit about the MAPS program. MAPS serves as the largest student-run pre-medical organization on campus, and with the ever-increasing difficulty of entering medical or graduate school, MAPS serves as a strong bridge for students to use in order to understand the various aspects of med school admissions, as well as to prepare students to be strong candidates for admissions. MAPS has a strong focus in preparing underrepresented in medicine minority groups for health careers, addressing the needs of our underserved communities, and increasing the number of minority groups into medicine. And at Delaware State University, we will be streamlining, we will be streamlining the process of laboratory research, volunteering, extracurricular activities, and other various aspects such as interviewing skills in order to help prepare students for admissions. We plan to have a general body meeting in mid-October. For students, we'll be running MCAT prep sessions and will assist in personal statement writing. We'll connect students with volunteering, shadowing, and scientific research opportunities. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me. I'll put my email in the chat as well as our advisor.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I do have one question in the Q&A. What would a good resume consist of? Which is a difficult question to answer because I really feel like everybody's resume is different.
So I will chime in on something that Pam raised earlier around, can you have a timeline that isn't your traditional timeline? Because I think that segues nicely with what should you put on a resume. And for me, you know, diversity is such a hot topic right now, but it's more than diversity of how we look. It's more the diversity of our experiences and how we approach ideas. So I think when I interview people or when I look at CVs and resumes, I am looking for experiences and understandings of populations that tell me that you're really going to care about these people that you'll be serving. So the things that make you stand out are the things that show us why you're approaching medicine, that show us why you want to work within a specific group, what led you to medicine. You will be asked 1,001 times why you want to be a doctor, and having those answers that are genuine and that are meaningful will get you further in life.
Thank you, Dr. Vasiker.
Excuse me, I can add to that a little bit, and I think that Dr. Vasigar is absolutely on target. Having the opportunity to review multiple applications every year of students applying, I think I can almost bring it down to one word, and that is passion. You need to show passion at what you want to do. And clearly, if you can present a resume that defines some experience that you had, perhaps, and certainly any volunteer program that you can participate in, working at a hospital, even we've had students that volunteered with the local ambulance crew at a volunteer fire company, things like that. And that's what really took them toward, in their case, wanting to be in emergency medicine. So that stands out when you read a resume. And so I think that Dr. Vasigar is exactly right. It's what we want to hear about are your experiences and your passion about what you want to do and your dedication.
I would also add, don't not put something on your resume because you don't think it follows that. Like if you have you know, your background is in, I don't know, English literature or something, and you're like, well, I'm not going to put that on my resume because English has nothing to do with science and medicine. Don't not put that on there, especially if that was one of the reasons that you decided to go into medicine. Even if it's like, you know, I read this really great short story and now all of a sudden I want to be a doctor. Cool. Tell me all about it.
And if you worked in a veterinary's office, we'd like to know that too. That was to be a joke.
Well, that makes me think Dr. Khan, who had to step away, I believe in high school or undergraduate, he did an internship in an auto body shop. He was interested in cars, and so he, you know, did something different one semester, and he still talks about how that influenced, you know, using his hands and interacting, and the customer service that comes with being a physician, right, and interacting with patients, and lessons learned through that time still stick with him. And you know, we've had other panelists similar to what's been discussed today, and Dr. Vasagar touched on it with diversity and diversity of experiences, and reflecting the whole person, not just that the part of you with the passion to be the physician, but also including activities and being involved in things outside of your passion for medicine that may be appealing and feed your soul and are self-care for you also. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And even if it's just an icebreaker, like people will say, Kate, you have a degree in nuclear engineering. I said, yes, I do. And it's that cool icebreaker. We do have another question in the chat. How do I deal with getting rejected from jobs and internships I applied to, especially after spending hours on applications? I think you just have to deal. I mean, there's no, that's a really unhelpful response, but figure out how you deal with things. Either, you know, get angry and go scream into a pillow, or talk to somebody and vent it out, and then don't give up on it. Don't.
And another application to complete and go for that one.
Yeah, and eventually something will come back positively. But don't let one denial or one rejection sway you. If this is what you want to do, then just keep trying.
And also have someone else look at the application, because maybe you're not selling yourself right. Maybe you're not showing that passion that Sherman was just talking about. It's there, but someone from the outside may not be seeing it. And so just to get another set of eyes on it. But don't give up. Just keep trying, because you're not the only one who's been rejected. In most cases, you know, there are like 2 slots for every 1,000 people. So you just keep trying, keep pressing, and it's a match, not just between, you know, in terms of you seeking, they're seeking too, and you know, they're trying to find the right fit. So keep trying, have another set of eyes on it, and don't lose that passion.
And I would also say, if it's like, have somebody look at your resume, somebody professional look at your resume and talk about what you've done and how you can make that work for you. Like, I had my resume and I thought it was great, and somebody's like, Kate, you did this, this, and this, put this on the resume. I went, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. They can also help you with the right words, because you can say, you know, I was walking down the street and I saw a wonderful tree, as opposed to, I was having a moment of meditation and reflection. And, and it just, they can just make it sound better, you know. And the same thing applies for job experiences or any types of skills you have. You know, they can help you shape it in the language of the group that you're applying to.
All great advice. Thank you all. We are at our time. We're actually a little over, so I'd like to thank everyone. You should see on the screen a QR code for our audience members. You can scan the QR code with the camera on your smartphone. We'll also be emailing a link to our survey, but if you're able to do it now, it would be great. It shouldn't take more than 2 minutes. We'd love your feedback. Your feedback helps us make this event and these panel discussions more engaging, more informative, and better each time with the feedback that you give us, so that we can continue to evolve and make sure that we're providing engaging and informative experience for you as we move forward with this. Thank you again for everyone that joined us today. If you have any questions that you didn't ask that you'd like to circle back, my email address is pgardner@dhsa.org. Please feel free to reach out to me. I can certainly help facilitate the questions that you have and get back to you. We will be posting the slides as well as the recording from today on the DHSA website. Again, that's www.dhsa.org. And on behalf of Dr. Khan and DHSA, as well as DIMER and our partners, thank you to our panelists today, and thank you to all who joined us in our audience as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care, stay healthy and safe.